Stearns, and I'm with Project 412. Thanks for joining us this morning for our first deep dive DL of 2025. And just a little bit about kind of what Project 412 is. I think some of you know, many of you know, but the 412, first of all, just to remind you, is a nod back to the history and the 412 lakes within 25 miles of Detroit Lakes. The Tourism Bureau used to always say that back in the 70s. And I don't know why it went away, but we decided to bring it back. And we just want to be standing on the shoulders of people who made some really good decisions in the Detroit Lakes area years ago and in the past few years even, and going forward. And we want to learn from that and see what we can do to elevate and just make PL the absolute best place possible to live. And one way we want to do that is by supporting our businesses that we have in town, and particularly our entrepreneurs within our area. Other things that we are working on coming up, we have an event. It's not a 412 event, but it's spun off from a 412 event, and that is next Saturday, January 25th at Bucks Mill. Jen Johnson right here is doing a s'mores event where you come and you share, you talk, you meet people. She's got a couple ideas she'll throw out to spark conversation. And it's just a way to build community, especially when it's bitterly cold, as we're going to be getting. And it's a great way to support Bucks Mill and meet some new people and have some fun conversations. So that is Saturday, January 25th at 6:30. Thank you, 6:30. And then also coming up in February, on Saturday, February 1st, we have Way North of Nashville, which is the annual event we do with some singer-songwriters that we bring up from Nashville. We treat them to a winter experience. They have just a blast. And then they put on this incredible listening room concert for us. So come out and join us for that. That's at the Historic Homes Theater on Saturday, February 1st. Then also in February, we have an event that we call Hot Dish. And this is something all of you can participate in, because all of you have ideas for Detroit Lakes, ways to make it a better place. And we want you to dish your hot idea. Get it? And you get a little plate of hot dish, and you get a vote. And you'll hear the ideas that people have. So you can submit your idea beforehand. You need to submit it by Friday, February 9th. Sunday, February 9th. And submit your idea. And you'll get a little coaching with it, and then present your idea. The top 4 will present their ideas at Hot Dish on Monday, February 24th. So
what do you win?
Oh, and they win the pot. So everyone who comes pays $5 to get a plate of hot dish and a vote, and all that money goes to the winner, whoever gets the most votes, to help them launch whatever their crazy good idea is that they've dished that night. So those are some of the things we're coming up. We have deep dive DLs every third Thursday of the month, or third Friday of the month, and right here. And to kick it off for 2025, Sarah Hoffman is our ecosystem builder, and she's got 2 fabulous guests. And so, do you want to introduce them, or do you want me to introduce? Okay, that's great. So give it up for Sarah. She works very hard and is really busy.
So as Amy said, my name is Sarah. I'm the ecosystem builder at Project 412. So my job is supporting entrepreneurs and new and existing businesses in town. We do that through events, coaching, and connections, and all sorts of things. So just ask me questions after if you have any. Today we are meeting with DuWayne Ditterich of Ditterich Mercantile and Anna Lassonde of Jollybird Studios. And before we get started, Anna has something really special that she wants to show you all. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Oh, sure. So we've had this mural idea for a little while, and it's going to go on the outside of this building, just right out here, kitty corner to the building here, Counselor Realty. And I actually rent from that building too, so I think that's kind of fun because you'll be able to find me easily because the mural will be right on there. But Amy and I talked, and we wanted to do something that kind of celebrated our community. And so we decided to do the zip code mural. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. I
think there should be a drum roll.
So,
Yeah, so, and the concept was kind of, we're a fishing community, we love the lakes, and so we did a lake theme, and I tried to use a lot of the fish that people like to go fishing for, or fish that we find in our lakes here.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, it'll kind of look like fish tank too, with the windows.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure. And then I believe the original is going to be shown somewhere here in the community. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but we'll find the perfect spot for it.
awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you got into art.
So I've always been an artist, like ever since I was a kid. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be an artist. But then I worked in healthcare most of my life, and after, I don't know, I just didn't have the confidence to dive right in and do my art. Because it's easy to stay where you're comfortable, right? So I moved to the medical field and I stayed there. I actually ended up having an accident on my horse and broke my pelvis and a bunch of bones, and so I was laid up, and while I was healing, I was doing my art, felt like Frida Kahlo, laying in bed, painting my art. And I tried to go back to work, and I was just having too much pain on my feet. And so I kind of was like, okay, God, what do I do? And he's like, well, I think you know what you're supposed to do. So I decided to take the big step and just be brave. I feel like I didn't have a lot to lose, because I really couldn't go back and be on my feet, because working at a nursing home is very, physically demanding, because you're on your feet a lot. And so I started doing my art, and I've healed more, and I have, a lot more endurance now, where I could probably, but I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. I have no regrets, and it's definitely something to keep working hard for. I love it. I've never been happier with what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. So what's the inspiration behind your art? I see kind of a theme of animals.
Yeah, here. I love nature. I love animals. I've always been an animal lover. I think too, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist farmer. That's such a thing now, because that's what I am. So I have an art, have my art, and then have my farm with all my animals. I'm a horse lover, and my horse is definitely an inspiration in all my animals. And then, of course, nature too, as you see with the mural here, having the lakes and the fish and that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. And just so you all know, all of her art over here is for sale. So if anyone's interested, you can connect with her about her Venmo after.
Sure.
And then what else do you offer at your studio? Because you offer some classes and stuff too, right?
Yes. So I teach classes over at the Holmes Art Cellar, or the Holmes, whatever rooms they have over there. They have a new room to teach in. I'm doing a drawing class over there right now. It's a big series. I like to really teach the technical aspect of drawing and of different art mediums, because I like people to be able to take a skill and be able to continue to use it. And so I really love teaching techniques and this stuff. I also do commission work, and I've illustrated a couple of books, and pet portraits. I really love doing animals, and I think what else? I think that covers most of it. Murals, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your art with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, now we're going to move on to you, DuWayne. Are you ready?
Yes.
You guys got to give it up for DuWayne, because he got up really early this morning. So, DuWayne, tell us about how you got started, because you've done a lot more than the Mercantile, right?
Correct. I'll kind of start back at 2013 and try to get this over in less than a year. In 2013, my wife and I were looking for good quality beef to have for our family, and we were struggling finding it. So at that time, we bought just a few feeders. It was like 4 or 5, and we started raising them. And I was like, well, if I raise 4, I can sell 3 and keep 1 for myself. So I kind of get mine for free. And so we did that for a few years. And in 2017, my cousin's like, you need to open a store on your farm. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. And, I don't know if it's the right time and the right place, because we're absolutely in the middle of nowhere. And so my cousin's like, no, you just go do it. So we were talking when he was trucking, and I was like, all right. The next day I called him and I said, hey, I ordered a freezer to put my beef in and set up an appointment to have that. And my son graduated in that May, and we got our freezer in May, and put that beef in 9 days, we completely sold out of meat. And I was like, oh, we obviously found something, because at that time, the grocery store was closed in Vergas. It just closed like 2 years before. So you had to drive, 15, 20 miles to get a product and any meat, anything. And so once I found out that it only took 9 days to sell a beef, I was like, and that was just, word of mouth and a little bit of Facebook. And so the first year we finished 17 beef and worked out pretty good. The second year we moved on, and we sold, that year was 76 beef. And then the next 3 years we averaged 125 to 150 head a year that we were finishing. We sold 100% direct market. Pre-COVID, we were in 12 restaurants at one single time. Talked about inventory nightmare for a small farm in the middle of nowhere. It was a lot of fun. And the next thing, I was like, we used to do sample day out at the farm. And the first time we had the radio station come out, I was unprepared. We were prepared, but not for what we got hit with. We had 450 people come out to our farm in 2 hours, and we sold out of everything. So we continued that we did that for 3 years, and it was a lot of fun. And everyone's like, oh, your hamburger's so good and your brisket's so good, you should, do a restaurant, whatever. Well, later in 2019, we bought a food truck, and then we started running that. And mostly we used it for catering, but we set up in the local, like Vergas and stuff like that. We'd set up like 3 times a year. And we'd literally sell out in an hour, no matter how much we made. So they're like, okay, we've got this figured out too. And between the catering and the beef, and it was farm to table. At that time, it wasn't brand new, but it was like something people weren't used to in our area. You get down by the cities and other places, it was more common. So with the food truck, we were like, okay, so we have the idea of how to raise the beef, how to prepare the food. And then COVID came, which was great for me, because the grocery stores were out of meat. The restaurants had to be closed. Well, we had a farm, we could sell meat, and we could open our food truck and have people come up to the window. So it was like ideal situation. And it was one day in May, I was out in the tractor working. I had 106 phone calls for hamburger that day. And I decided that night I had so many calls, I just couldn't keep track. So I went through and scrolled through. It was 106 phone calls. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder I was ready to put the phone. Like this one person I just answered, and I go, no, we don't have hamburger. And they're like, how did you know I was going to ask that? I'm like, because you're about the 60th person. So from there, after COVID, Vergas had a grocery store committee that I was on, and there was a few other people, and we were trying to figure out how our town wasn't hurting, but we definitely weren't improving and going forward like we wanted to. So we were looking to try to get a grocery store back in, and we worked with other towns that have grocery stores, other people who owned gas station type, convenience store type things. And it was just really hard to convince them without them living in Vergas that it was a town that they should, put their money into. So one night we were sitting around at family supper, and I asked the kids, how many of you guys, I have 3 boys, and how many of you boys want to farm? Well, none of them wanted to farm. So I was like, there's no succession there, right? They're just not, it's not going to happen. So the one thing that they had common interest in is keeping the land that we had. And I'm like, well, that's fair enough. And I understand that you don't want to farm. You've watched me do it. And it was long hours, hard work. And my next question was, well, how many of you would be interested in helping me if I built a grocery store? And all 3 of them were, like, yes, definitely we'll help you. And so when they gave me that answer, I went back to the committee, and I'm like, if we can figure out a way to get a building in town and, I'll run the grocery store. And I think they put me on that committee because they could work on me for 3 years to try to get me going. It's pretty gullible when it comes to I love a challenge and doing new things. So I got together with a couple business owners in town. They built the grocery store, the building, and I leased the space. We opened the building, and my middle son he's basically the succession of the business. So that's his plan, is to take it over.
So I lived in Vergas, and I remember being very excited when your hamburgers were in the convenience store there. Because I was like, oh my gosh, because he's right, it would take forever. And in the winter, you have all those back roads to get to town. It took a long time to get to a grocery store. So I'm very excited you're there. So how did you figure out all the ins and outs of the grocery store? I'm guessing you just didn't know that right off the bat.
So I got a hold of the Minnesota Department of Ag, and they're very helpful. And they set us up so we, would have all the specs needed. So when the grocery store opens, we're ready to roll. Other than that, I worked with I worked with Mason Brothers, who were great help. They set the whole floor up. They gave us they let us pick the food that was in there, but they gave us huge lists of these are the things you should have, and this is, you should have this in the deli, you should have this in the produce, and so they were a lot of help, and especially with the design aspect of it, because that's something that they know the layout and how things should lay in that. So that was one of the places I got a lot of information, and then kind of a funny story is a guy came into the grocery store the third day we were open, and he goes, well, how much grocery store experience do you have? I said, 3 days. So that's how much experience I had. I had worked in a convenience store, 35 years ago when I was in high school. That things have changed. And so that's where, the main thing is always find somebody who's good at what their job is and help you set up what your goal is, because you can have all the greatest ideas in the world, but if it doesn't fit the mold, that you need that person who can tell you, hey, this is what needs to happen.
And tell us about your special lunches that sell over really quickly.
So one of the things I wanted to do is, because of the food truck, we wanted to have food and catering available for people to come to our store and get. So I always thought, in a grocery store, it's hard to get people in a grocery store, around noon or in a small town. So I was like, well, if we put in a lunch, they're going to come in and get a lunch and grab a soda, energy drink, coffee, whatever, type thing. And it's also a great way to use product. It's like, oh, we have 20 packets of chicken. Let's do chicken today. And so that was one way to help, do that. And everything we do for our lunches is pretty much homemade. So a lot of people are, they've had the gas station pizza for a long time and things like that, and they're always looking for different things. They go back and get that, and then, it's a good transition to give them more options. Our number one client at noon, I would say, are construction workers and people who only have a few minutes to have lunch, because we have it in the to-go box, and you literally walk in and 30 seconds later you walk out. But we also have a little table, so we can fit about 4 people. So if the table's open, go ahead and use it, type thing. So
I heard the prime rib and the brisket.
yeah, people. So when we had the food truck, our number one sales item was always a brisket, and so when we do brisket sandwiches, we just about always guaranteed to sell out. And we had some people. There's a pipeline project outside of Vergas when the year we opened, and I did prime rib sandwiches. We did 55 prime rib sandwiches in 10 minutes. So that was our best lunch we ever had. And it's a lot of fun. And so I love, if they're coming through putting fiber in or stuff like that, we try to get, if we can get one of those guys, to come in and have lunch, we get the whole crew. So, it's a really good deal. So when they're working on the pipeline, we averaged about 50 lunches a day that summer, which in a town of, you've already got Billy's and you've got the gas station, and you've got the loon's nest. So, for us to get 50, that was a, definitely a huge benefit to our business. And actually, I was like, I talked to one restaurant, and I was like, well, I feel bad on, taking customers away. And they're like, no, we're so glad because we can't keep up anyways. So it actually relieved pressure off of other places. People were able to get get their lunch quick and get back to work.
I know you talked a little bit with me about how you have a big focus on supporting other local businesses and making sure you're sourcing local. And then you kind of have a different way of doing marketing. Is there a way that kind of all rolls together with like the local support market?
So one thing that we try to do is make sure we can have as much local products as we can. We have like local maple syrup. We have a local wild rice. We have local honey, and like the wild rice actually is harvested like 3 miles outside of town. So I mean, it is local as local can get. And the honey, actually, the people who have the bees actually had the bees on my farm. So it's kind of cool that they can get honey, if you can relate all that stuff together. And I'm not against corporate America, but if I can bring in a local or mom and pop type business, we have a pizza that you really can't get very many places around, and we're probably the smallest store they're in, and we're the number one sales for their pizzas. So, when you think of like that, you got to have, in today's world, you can't compete with the Aldis and Walmarts of the world. They haven't figured out how to get low cost. So if I can't be a low cost producer, I have to have a unique item to draw people. And so that's what I focus on. And my marketing is, when we started the farm and the food truck back in the day, Facebook, 8-9 years ago, was a pretty big way to get your information out there. And in today's world, if you litter Facebook every day with a post or two, you're going to get a couple respondents, and you don't really gain any traction. But last year we put a post out. Would you be interested in rotisserie chicken in our grocery store? That's the biggest post we've ever had. And the community club shared our post. And between the two posts, we had over 600 likes and 500 comments. So obviously that was an impactful post. Now, on New Year's Day, I said, we're going to close the store. We're going to be open from 9 to 1. We had 7 people like the post, so that people don't want generic, boring posts. They want something that gets them excited and something to think about. We don't really run like sales in our grocery store, but like we'll put a sale item on sale. And when we do that, we better have a lot of product, because and we put products on sale. We don't put macaroni and cheese on sale. We'll put meat. We'll put that family pizza for sale, and when they can get that opportunity, it's impactful, and people are excited to come into your store and get that.
Great. So is there anything along your whole journey that just surprised you? Where you're like, you thought it was 100% going to go one way, and it just...
Well, for me to get anything done and do it right, I guess that surprised me the most. And then, the thing that surprised me the most is when we put that freezer in our farm shop and sold out a whole beef in 9 days. I mean, that's just it was unheard of. Everybody I told, it was like that's what lit the candle for our farm to become successful and move on, even though we're moving away from the farm. I still farm a few hundred acres, and it's something that I want to go sit in the tractor. You just get out, you get your own time then. So, but that was the most surprising thing, I would guess, is having the just having that beef And one little funny story is, so you know the little real estate signs you see around and all that. So I went to a local sign company and had 100 Ditterich Family Farm signs made up, local meats, retail center, blah, blah, blah. And we went out, I put the kids and my hired man that I had at the time, we put all 100 of those out about the 10th of June. And you couldn't go, if you were within 10 miles of Vergas, you saw a Ditterich Mercantile or a Ditterich Family Farm, local beef. And that, I honestly think that mad rush of those 100 signs is what, you know, complemented that first sale. And so, you know, impactful marketing is way better than generic, in my opinion. You know, when you listen to the radio and you just hear that same ad over and over and over, you already know what the jingle is, but it doesn't really mean anything to you. Know, it's just there. But if they're like, you know, free beer, everyone's going to hear that.
One more question and then I'll open it up to the room. So you've had a lot of success and things that worked out really well. Can you tell me about a time where something crashed and burned and you figured it out?
And this is farm related, and it was very stressful because in the planting season, the most important thing in the farming is getting that seed planted. And we'd done some work to our planter before planting season, and I took the planter out and I could not get the seed to go in the ground no matter what I did. And we're talking, it's like May 13th because it was a little wet. You only have another about 10 days to plant. And we sat and we worked on it. I was up, I was reading online. I was literally up 3 days in a row. I called a planter specialist out of like the Browerville area, could not get it done. He's like, I've never seen this before. It's never happened before. He's worked on thousands of planters. And one night when I was sleeping, you know, I was like, you know what? All those improvements I did to the planter, let's throw all that away, go back to the way it was. So we took everything off, put all the old parts back on, and we were up and running in 5 minutes. Well, that was the most probably stress. And I don't stress about anything. I just let stuff roll. I don't, but that was as close, you know, because now by the 4th day, we're at May 17th now when I finally start planting. So way too late and not a comfortable feeling, but that was one of the, you know, and unfortunately I'm extremely driven to get things done. I probably had 3 hours of sleep each one of those 3 nights trying to figure out and then reading online and asking questions. It was not, that was not fun, but overall we did, you know, I actually called my neighbor to see if he'd plant my corn starting that next day. So sometimes you just have to go back to where you were.
Good lesson. And they all say, you know, they don't make the equipment the way they used to. So maybe the old stuff is better.
Yeah, this was real old, so yeah.
All right, now we're going to open it up for questions for both of them. So if you ask a question, just direct it.
Right, DuWayne, so what advice do you have? I know there's some folks in the room who have always dreamt of starting their own business, or they think, well, should I do this or not? What advice do you have for a young or a new entrepreneur to take the leap and try it?
And this is obviously just a personal thought, but I think you have to be passionate towards what you're going to get into, and you have to be goal driven. And the next thing is, if you just like say you want to go build a manufacturing facility because you think you can make money, but you don't know a whole lot about it, but your goal is money, that should always be your last goal, not your first goal. Your first goal should be your passion. The second goal should be following through with that. And if you think you're going to work a 40-hour work week, if it's a real business, not, you can do part-time business that don't require that. But if you think you're gonna get by working 40 hours and no weekends and you're gonna have a successful business, it's not gonna happen. There's not a chance in the world. If you wanna work 80 hours a week, not sleep very much, try to figure out why that person called in sick and now I'm here, and all that sort of stuff, and you like doing that and the 80 hours a week, sooner or later that money will show up. And then, so that's why it should be your last goal, not your first goal. But the main thing is I didn't know if I'd like the grocery industry or whatever, but I liked all the things that led up to it. And I was getting to use all my past history to go into that. So I knew I'd kind of like it. And I like talking with people. And the best thing as like a business like we have is, get to know your customer, say hello, how's it going? What you doing at the lake today? So, get that personal feel with your customer also. So that's kind of what I would recommend if you're going to get into business. And I think you should have some of, like, a lot of times you want to go to a bank and get a loan, because most of the time when you start a business, that's required. It's to have your ducks in a row financially. And you don't have to have a lot of money, but you got to show them what you've done previously, what your plan is, and then have either sweat equity or some cash to help get it started, because a lot of banks are going to require that you have a plan. Fortunately for me, I've never had a business plan in my life, but good at talking, so I could talk to the bank and they could make the business plan for me.
Anna, it looks like from the spread of art that you have here that you have found a bit of a niche or a style with your work. Was there a point at which you kind of realized you had found your style or your artistic voice, or has it always kind of been that way for you?
That's a good question. I think it was more practice. The more I did it, the more of that style just naturally came out. Growing up, I kind of always had a style, but I didn't embrace it. In fact, I always wanted to do art that looked like somebody else's art, and I didn't embrace my own style. But the more I practiced, then the more confidence I got in what came out. And when I found what I really loved to paint, animals, I just kind of went with it, and I just love that whimsical and the personality that I get from my animals. So yeah, with that answer.
Hey, DuWayne. Can you talk about Altoona Square as a whole a little bit, about how the Mercantile fit into that corner with the bakery and the gym and the rentals upstairs, like kind of how that whole building came together as one big project?
So when they came to me and asked me about the grocery store, the two businessmen in town, they also, they wanted to have something that would, not just a grocery store in it, but they wanted to have other businesses that would help draw to the community. And so when they got started, I still want more space. I wanted more space when it was built, but they put in room for the grocery store and 3 other businesses. What happens to be that one of the businesses took 2 of the spots. So, and we end up, one of the person is a young gal from Pelican who opened up MW Pastries, and then the owners of the building opened up the fitness center. So both of them have been a huge draw to Vergas. A lot of people in the summertime, they don't have a place to do the workout and things like that. And then bakery does a lot of the catering type stuff, like weddings and anniversaries and different things like that. So it's just nice to have that whole having opportunity to bring more people to Vergas. And then one thing in town in Vergas that's still lacking, and I think will be lacking for the next 10 years, is housing. And so when they built that, the idea was they put eight apartments in, and before they opened the apartments in August and they were all rented out by September 1st, you know, so obviously there's a demand. And I think when they first opened the apartments, the youngest person or the oldest person in the apartments was 25 years old. So if you know, people are like, oh, there's no young people, there's no opportunity. What there is there's no place for them to live. So, you know, if we want those young people, and they have the forefront to think about, you know, that. And now I don't hold, a lot of people think I hold the building, but I don't. So they come and ask me about renting. And I have at least 2 people a month, minimal, that come in and ask for renting that specific space, you know. And I'm like, I don't. And just because you're right downtown, you know, you're a block from Billy's, you're across the street from the Loon's Nest, well, everything's a block away in Vergas. So, and Alcona Square really, you know, when you drive into Vergas, it's a big building, but it's not really an ice. It's more like it's a unique, very well designed, you know, it doesn't look like it was just put there 2 years ago, you know, or 3. It fits the design of downtown. And so that, you know, the only thing I honestly would change about it is make it bigger, because we need more retail space and we need more housing.
Any more questions? Okay, so my last question, and this is for both of you, is how can we as a community better support you?
Well, I love to do commission work, and so if anyone has any pet portraits or any commission work for me, I would love to take commissions and be able to do those. I also do paint parties and murals and illustrate books. So I guess I would love referrals for any of those kinds of jobs that would support me in being able to continue doing my work here in the small community. You know, any work is always appreciated. So, and I do feel very well supported by the community here.
And I guess for me, what I would, you know, I don't expect everyone to use Ditterich Mercantile as their main source of food. But what I'd really like is for people to come down, buy birthday presents, buy Christmas presents, anniversary presents, and get our local, unique products that we sell, because we're one of the few places that you're going to be able to get that. And when people give those as a gift, the people who receive them come back in and tell me how happy they are that that person picked up the gift. And, you know, because they don't think about buying it for themselves, and they get that unique gift, and they love it. So that, you know, if you need something for Valentine's Day, we sell a locally made chocolate on the Vergas Falls. It's like, you can get rocks candy at every corner in the world, but you can only get this candy bar at, say, 5 places in Otter Tail County. So, you know, come in. It makes their day great because I make an order. It makes my day great because I got, you know, somebody came in and got a wonderful gift for somebody.
Well, thank you both for coming here and sharing your story with us. We greatly appreciate it. Our next deep dive DL is on February 21st with Kim Eggerbrotten and Emma Toom, who's right back there. I am. And we also have a pitch competition coming up for businesses. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you know of anyone who has either a startup business or they have a current business that they're expanding in a new direction and they want to be in Detroit Lakes, they would be a great fit for that. So send them my way.
Hey, Sarah, how's that different from Hot Dish?
Great question, Amy. So Hot Dish is a place where you're pitching your ideas to build community in DL. So it's a simpler process than the pitch competition. It's a 2-minute application online, and it's just your cool idea that you want to launch in town, some way to bring people together. And then you go and pitch. And as Amy has said and Greg helped out with, you win the pot if you win the contest. The pitch competition, that is more for businesses, and when the businesses are coming in, the application is very simple, but then you kind of get put through like a little mini business boot camp. You do a lean business plan, and you will also do a small marketing video, and then the 4 finalists that we pick, they then get to go on with a pitch coach, and they do a live event. It's kind of like a Shark Tank style. It'll be at the Holmes Theater this year. It's going to be really exciting. Last time we had over 100 people show up, and it was a great night to celebrate entrepreneurship. So make sure you mark your calendar. That's the main event of May 6th. All right. Well, thanks for coming out today. We appreciate having you all here. Bye.